Everyone notices him, but no one can quite explain him. He's not the loudest, not the most dominant, not even the most visible. And yet, he changes the energy of every room he walks into. People try to label him shy, arrogant, antisocial. But none of those fit, because he's not trying to be anything. He just is. And that alone breaks every rule most people live by. That's the Sigma personality. While others seek approval, he stays quiet. While others chase attention, he walks away. And while most are trying to prove something, he's the one who doesn't even care if you're watching. That's what makes him different. Not attitude, not rebellion. Wiring. Here are 7 reasons why Sigma males always act differently, and why it shakes people more than they'd ever admit. Number 1. They don't escalate, they exit. Most people feel the need to respond, to defend their name, protect their pride, or just prove they're not weak. It's human. Psychologists like Daniel Goleman explain that emotional reactivity kicks in before logic can step in. And that's how a simple disagreement turns into a shouting match no one actually wins. While Sigma males feel that pull too, they pause, evaluate, and walk away. Not to be dramatic, not to make a scene, but because they see what most people miss: the hidden cost of pointless conflict. Escalation drains you, it hijacks your focus. And often, it's less about resolution and more about ego. Sigma males don't feed that cycle. Silence, distance, and disengagement aren't weakness. They're strategy. So when someone tries to bait them, picks a fight, or starts pushing buttons, the Sigma doesn't take the offer. He leaves it on the table. And that's what unsettles people. When someone is expecting a reaction, and all they get is calm disinterest, it reveals something uncomfortable. Not every fight is about justice or truth. Some are just noise. The Sigma doesn't exit because he's afraid of confrontation. He exits because some confrontations don't deserve a response. He's not trying to win. He's just unwilling to waste energy proving something that never mattered. And that quiet refusal to engage is often the most disarming move of all. Number 2. They're hard to impress and impossible to control. Most people crave recognition. They light up when praised, adjust when corrected, and bend, just a little, when they think it will earn approval. But the Sigma male, he doesn't flinch. Compliments don't inflate him. Authority doesn't intimidate him. He measures value on his own terms, and that makes him unpredictable. You can't bait him with status. You can't motivate him with clout. And the moment someone tries to pull his strings, whether through charm, pressure, or subtle guilt, he simply detaches, not out of anger, but because he sees the manipulation before it even lands. This makes him unnerving, not because he's aggressive, but because he's unshakable. You can't control someone who doesn't care about the rewards you're offering. You can't shame someone who isn't playing your game. What most people don't understand is that the Sigma male isn't trying to resist. He just doesn't really see most social cues as important. His attention can't be bought. His actions can't be steered. And the more someone tries to lead him, the more silent and distant he becomes. That's not arrogance. That's independence at a level most people have never seen up close. And it's why the Sigma isn't just different. He's a threat to any system built on control, especially the kind people follow blindly, just because it's always been that way. Number 3. They don't ask for trust. They test for truth. Trust is something most people either rush into or expect on demand. A few nice words, some well-timed actions, and suddenly trust is handed out like it was earned, but rarely is. Sigma males don't fall for surface gestures. They don't care how confident someone sounds or how quickly they try to get close. Instead, they pay attention to alignment, to the small but telling ways someone's actions either match their words or expose their true character. They don't ask, Can I trust this person? They just observe, quietly, patiently, not because they're guarded, but because they understand that real trust isn't built through declarations. It's revealed through patterns. Psychologist Jordan Peterson often says that if you want to understand someone, don't listen to their words, watch what they repeatedly do. Sigma males live by that. They notice how you handle discomfort, how you treat those with no power, and how consistent you are when no one's looking. What throws people off is that they don't test with traps or challenges. There's no setup, just time, space, and a high sensitivity to inconsistency. And when something doesn't sit right, they don't argue, they simply withdraw. It's not a power play, it's self-preservation. Because misplaced trust doesn't just lead to disappointment. It costs mental clarity and emotional energy, and those are not negotiable to a Sigma. So while others rush to connect and hope it sticks, the Sigma male waits and watches, and when truth shows up, or doesn't, he acts accordingly. Number 4. They don't fear being misunderstood. They expect it. Most people spend their lives trying to be understood. They explain themselves, overcorrect, reword their intentions, all to make sure no one gets the wrong idea. Because being misunderstood feels like rejection, and rejection stings. But Sigma males don't carry that fear. In fact, they expect to be misunderstood, and they've made peace with it. That doesn't mean they enjoy it, or that they're trying to be mysterious. It just means they've realized something most people haven't. Being understood by everyone usually requires being less of yourself. And that's a price they're never willing to pay. They know their quiet nature makes people uncomfortable. They know their boundaries are seen as arrogance. They know their silence is often misread as judgment or superiority. But instead of trying to explain or defend, they let people think what they want. Why? Because experience has shown them that the people who need to understand them will. And the people who don't or won't were never really listening to begin with. It's not detachment, it's selectivity. They value connection, but not at the expense of diluting who they are just to fit into someone else's frame of reference. As author Brené Brown once said, you either walk inside your story and own it, or you stand outside your story and hustle for your worthiness. Sigma males don't hustle. They walk quietly inside their own story, even if no one's watching, clapping, or nodding in approval. And that quiet self-acceptance is exactly what makes them unreadable and unforgettable. Number 5. They don't need to win arguments. They need to make sense. Arguments are where most people lose control, not because they're wrong, but because they're emotionally invested in being right. They raise their voice, repeat themselves, talk over each other. And in the end, no one's really listening. They're just waiting to speak. Sigma males approach conflict completely differently. They're not driven by the need to win. They're driven by clarity. If something doesn't make sense, they'll question it. If it still doesn't make sense, they'll walk away. They don't get caught in circular debates, emotional outbursts, or ego battles. That's not intelligence to them. That's noise. What most people mistake for coldness is actually precision. Sigma males don't argue to overpower. They speak to understand or to challenge flawed logic. And once it becomes clear that the other person is arguing just to protect their pride, the Sigma disengages, not out of disrespect, but because the conversation has already ended in his mind. Psychologist Carl Jung once said, "Thinking is difficult. That's why most people judge." Sigma males choose thought over reaction, logic over emotional impulsivity. And that makes them frustrating to argue with, because they won't take the bait. They won't meet intensity with intensity. They'll just calmly lay out their point and leave it there. They don't need to feel superior. They just need the facts to hold up. And if they don't, they won't fight harder. They'll let the idea collapse on its own. Because for a Sigma, logic isn't just a tool. It's the line between peace and chaos, and they'll always choose peace. Number 6. They don't prove their value, they protect it. There's a subtle pressure in today's world to constantly prove yourself. People post their achievements, explain their decisions, justify their worth. It's not always ego, sometimes it's survival. In a culture where being visible often feels like being valuable, staying silent can feel like falling behind. Sigma males reject that idea completely. Not out of pride, but not everything meaningful needs an audience. They don't advertise their growth. They don't perform their confidence. And they don't need validation to know who they are. Value isn't something to throw into every room. It's something to guard. The more noise around them, the more selective they become about what they show, who they share it with, and when they speak. It's not secrecy. It's intention. They don't need people to clap when they win or sympathize when they struggle. Because real strength in their world isn't measured by how loudly you announce it, but by how little you depend on others to recognize it. This often confuses people. They assume the Sigma is hiding something or trying to seem superior. But in reality, he's just conserving energy. He's choosing not to exhaust himself proving value to people who aren't even qualified to see it. Like Naval Ravikant says, play long-term games with long-term people. The Sigma knows his worth. He's just not putting it on display for the short-term crowd. Number 7. They're immune to social urgency. There's a kind of panic woven into everyday life now. People wake up already behind. They rush to answer messages before they've even had coffee, feel anxious when a blue tick is left hanging, and stress over decisions that didn't even exist an hour ago. It's not productivity. It's pressure disguised as purpose. And most don't question it. They just keep moving. Sigma males don't. While everyone else is reacting to the next notification, the next headline, the next demand for attention, the Sigma male steps back. Not out of laziness or arrogance, but because he sees what speed does to clarity. When you're always rushing, you don't think. You just respond. And that's how people end up in conversations they didn't want, commitments they didn't choose, and leaves they barely recognize. The Sigma doesn't race against that clock. He doesn't check in out of fear. His calm isn't passive. It's earned. He lets things breathe. He thinks before speaking. And if that makes him look slow or unbothered, so be it. Because urgency in his eyes is rarely about importance. It's about other people's anxiety spilling into your space. While the world moves faster, louder, more chaotically, he moves when it makes sense, not when someone else panics. And in that stillness, he finds control. The kind most people can't access because they're too busy chasing what doesn't matter. Thanks for being here. If you felt something in this, you already know why. Take care of your peace, move with purpose, and I'll see you in the next one.